Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Connecting Dots podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Usama, and today we're joined by Mansoor Khan, whom I've known for well over a decade now. He currently holds the position of a cloud support engineer, and in this upcoming conversation, not only would we be talking to him about his title in specific, but we'll also talk to him about side hustles as well. So, with that, let's get started. Mansoor, how had your day been so far?
Hey, Zama, first things first, thank you for having me. It's so good to be here and
Hmm.
being listed in one of, those few
Yeah.
talented people who are holding good positions at different companies. So thanks again. And yeah, it's been a long time since we last connected, so good to connect again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and
Hmm.
that's about my journey. It's been a roller coaster ride.
Hmm.
I've seen the easy parts as well, and I've
Yeah.
seen the hard parts as well. So some jobs, some financial things,
Hmm.
some emotional things like
Yeah.
really came easy to me, and for some
Hmm.
I had to really work hard, and that actually made me value things,
Right.
the working hard part. So yeah, but I think I did deserve the roller coaster
Yeah.
ride. I didn't want the all easy thing, I think.
Right.
So yeah, been good so far.
Yeah, sounds good, man. So if we were to get started with an elevator pitch about your professional journey, the roles that you've been through, and then talking about your role in specific, the current role in specific. So what would be your thoughts about it?
Yeah. So yeah, it started when I was in engineering, electrical engineering back in 2015. And like I said, like some things came easy to me. So first thing was that Huawei
Mm.
internship,
Yeah,
which was internship leading to job.
yeah,
And I was like, man, I've already always expected that it's very hard to get into the companies after
yeah.
graduation, but this company is reaching out to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they came to the university.
Mm-hmm.
I apparently passed their test and I got the internship.
Yeah,
So I was like, okay, it's easy. It's been easy. It's
yeah.
it's the first job and I didn't really have to go out of my way to get it. So
Right.
after like 3.5 months of internship, which was supposed to be leading to a job, turned out they didn't have more jobs
Yeah.
at that time. So
Yeah,
it
that was a
sucked.
surprise to
But
all of us.
yeah, totally. I mean,
Yeah.
you committed differently, but anyways. So, but by that time, I was already, by the way, I knew Turkish language.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I had always been interested in photography. So, I wouldn't say like when I was laid off from
Mm-hmm.
Huawei, but when that tenure was over,
Mm.
3.5 months something. So, I was already doing some freelancing in Turkish language interpretation and some photography gigs. I
Right.
would go to, you know, covering weddings, covering fashion shows,
Mm-hmm.
covering some automobile shows.
Yeah.
So, and it was paying me well, especially the Turkish language part.
Right.
I would be hanging out with the prime minister of the country
Man,
and
isn't
I would
that
be
cool?
interpreting them. Yeah, it was cool. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, this is
Yeah.
going good.
Yeah.
But then also on the other side, my friends, my fellow graduates, they were getting jobs
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of freelancer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in Pakistan and if you're freelancing,
Yeah.
you basically are not doing anything from
Yeah.
the social norms
Yeah.
of the country.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
would be like, Beta, what are you doing? You
Yeah.
would say, I'm freelancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what are
Yeah.
you
But
doing?
what do you
What are you doing?
what is this
That's what
question?
I'm doing. What is yeah, totally. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so
Yeah.
there was this pressure of meeting the society expectations as well, not
Right.
just making money and having fun.
Mm.
So I was making funny, and honestly, in the start, it was really easy money. Like I would see some of my fellow
Mm-hmm.
um, engineers getting jobs, working all over the month, and then getting a certain pay. I would get it in like 4 days,
Right.
and would have all this protocol, government protocols and all. So I
Mm-hmm.
was all enjoying it. But then what happens after 4 days? Because those gigs are not gonna last.
Yeah.
The business with Turkish was booming back in those days. So
Right.
I was in demand back then. There were very few of us who were,
Yeah.
really good at
Yeah.
Turkish.
Yeah.
English, Urdu, we were communicating well. So we knew the processes
Right.
with time. So we were kind of in demand, but
Right.
they wouldn't last very long. Like
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't get a gig every other week. You would get it every other month,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. And then there were more people who would be learning Turkish. And then,
Yeah.
fast forward, there were
Yeah.
silent times as well. So then you would sit there and you were like, my colleagues are working and I'm not.
Yeah.
Even though you'd be making money, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not making money in those times, so you don't feel productive.
That's
So
true.
anyway,
Yeah.
that's when I like, it came as a reality
Mm-hmm.
check to me, and then I started applying at jobs,
Yeah.
um, and then I wasn't getting any because of one, because of the way I had studied, and
Yeah.
I would study for the exams. I would start a night earlier, and then I would forget after the exams. So, and now
Yeah.
I'm at a stage where it's been a
Mm-hmm.
year after graduation, and I don't really remember a lot of engineering,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't pass interviews. And honestly, there weren't many jobs in electrical engineering domain.
Mm-hmm.
Most were like even my fellows were working in the software houses,
Mm-hmm.
which is something I used to be good at, but 5 years before that time, so I had forgotten things.
Right.
Anyway, I started studying, I tried to prepare for it, and then I finally got a job after a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was application engineer. Didn't require a lot of coding.
Mm-hmm.
There was some customer communication and some coding.
Right.
Um, yeah, and it was an electronics firm, so
Mm-hmm.
because I knew coding and I knew a lot of engineering,
Mm-hmm.
at least relatively more than, the core software engineer, so I
Yeah.
was kind of a good profile for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was lucky to get the job. Um, then I think I caught up to the work really fast there.
Right.
2 months, 3 months, and then
Mm-hmm.
the same work was repeating over and over again. And then I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I'm not being productive again.
And the cycle
That's
repeats
when,
itself.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it comes again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm in that cycle again right now.
Mm-hmm.
But coming back,
Yeah.
so yeah, I wanted to work in coding. I wanted some
Mm-hmm.
mathematics in my life.
Yeah.
So what I thought was I figured out that, oh, okay, data science is cool.
Yeah.
So it seems to be the new
Mm-hmm.
buzzword,
Yeah.
apparently globally.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of jobs. We were reading that this is the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, so I couldn't get into computer science, so maybe I should try for the data science. So I
Mm-hmm.
started looking for the masters, and there was a master's program that had just started
Yeah.
at ITU Lahore.
Yeah.
So I applied there,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted a test, which was again coding,
Yeah.
maths, English, and man, I studied for a month for it and
Yeah.
passed it,
Yeah.
thankfully,
Yeah.
and got into that program. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it was the turning point for me. It really taught me a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
The curriculum was really up to date.
Yeah.
Everything we were learning
Mm-hmm.
was being used, in the industry.
Yeah.
So while I was learning that, I had already done like 1.5 semester. I got um, an email or on my LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
from Northwest Solutions, which was one of the very few, like literally very few, one of the two places probably back in those times
Yeah.
in Pakistan who were actually working on cloud technologies.
Hmm. Interesting.
I'm
Yeah.
talking about like 2017.
Okay. Yeah.
Not a lot of companies were actively working in
Yeah.
that domain, and I really wanted to go there, but um, I thought that I'm not prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
But then some of the friends I shared it with some of the friends who pushed me, no, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was like,
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
maybe I should
Yeah.
prepare for it
Yeah.
and I should apply after a month or so.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, no, they are reaching out to you. Just go
Yeah.
for
Just
it.
go for it.
You know,
Exactly.
yeah, just prepare and go for it.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hired me. They offered me a job as a software engineer,
Mm-hmm.
which was kind of a restart of my career because I
Yeah.
wasn't working in software industry back then. So I was happy for that
Yeah.
restart. So my previous 2 years of experience was gonna go away,
Hmm.
but I was okay with that because I wanted that start. I wanted to
Yeah.
get into the cloud technologies. I wanted to get into the data sciences,
Okay.
and that was a good place to be in.
Hmm.
So I started that. I continued my masters, and that was really hard to maintain both of them. It was a
Absolutely. Yeah.
full-time
It's
masters.
crushing.
It was a full, yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
the timings as well. Like they would clash.
Yeah.
I would be at work. I would travel to my university because there didn't used to be COVID,
Yeah.
and that's why there didn't used to be,
Yeah.
online classes thing.
Right.
So I would then
Yeah.
travel back to work. So,
Hmm.
but then I continued like this for a
Yeah.
year. I passed one more semester,
Mm.
and then one more semester. I
Yeah.
did my certifications there, and then
Hmm.
I had another LinkedIn message.
Hmm.
I had a couple of them from a few other companies
Yeah.
back in Pakistan, but
Right.
then I was working on Redshift, AWS product,
Hmm.
their service, data, and it's their data warehouse.
Okay.
I was very actively working on it in North Bay, and then I got reached out by their apparent competitor
Yeah.
back in those days, which was Snowflake.
Okay. Right.
So I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
Again, I was back at it again. Man, I'm not prepared for it. I actually said that to them that I
Yeah.
don't think I'm ready for it.
No
But they
way.
were like, your profile
Yeah.
fits.
Self
I mean, you,
sabotage, man.
yeah, yeah, I've been doing that.
Okay.
So, but anyway, that hiring manager was, considered enough. He apparently didn't took it very deeply that I'm not even up for it.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna go for it.
Hmm.
But then he just waved it off. It's like, just give it a try. I
Hmm.
think your profile fits enough.
Yeah.
I prepared for it again. I tried
Hmm.
to convince them to push the interviews by, I don't know, 2 weeks. They were gonna go for it in a week.
Hmm.
It was a whole session of interviews, like eight interviews, I think,
Okay.
and a written test as well. So they did push it
Hmm.
by 2 weeks. I'm working
Yeah.
full time. I'm studying full time, and then I have interviews
Mm.
at 2 a.m. in the night because it was with the people working from the US.
Right.
So,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that was really hard, but
Yeah.
it paid off. It paid off, and
Yeah.
here I am
Okay,
at Snowflake.
that's actually a pretty intense journey, to be honest. Like whenever you try going up the incline, and then once you reach there, you're like, okay, now there's another one, and then there's another one.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah,
cool.
totally.
Yeah, but anyways, Mansoor, if we specifically talk to you about the role of a cloud support engineer in specific, so currently you are at a senior level right now, but if you were to talk about the role in specific, so what are the general tiers of the role, and what does the role entail?
Yeah. So I'm working as senior cloud support engineer.
Mm-hmm.
I had started off as cloud support engineer,
Mm-hmm.
not associate, but there is no position as associate cloud support engineer. So
Okay.
for the
Yeah.
tiers, there are three.
Yeah.
There is cloud support engineer, there's senior cloud support engineer, and then there is principal cloud support engineer.
Okay.
Um, and aside them,
Mm-hmm.
um, there is a separate branch which actually follows the same tiers,
Mm-hmm.
but is not, I should say, it's not for the associate level ones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the priority cloud support engineers. So that's the role I'm working in.
Okay.
And it's so we basically do assist the customers technically. We are the technical face of the company.
Okay.
So mostly how it works is that customers reach out to us
Mm-hmm.
and they have technical issues, they have design problems,
Yeah.
they have all kinds of problems.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I repeat, it's only the technical part
Yeah.
that I work on or my team works on. There's another team that's called CCR,
Mm-hmm.
Customer Care Representatives.
Okay.
They're the ones who deal with the non-tech issues.
Right. Okay.
Um, so yeah, this like assisting the customers technically is, I would say, 60% of the job.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the 40% is working on internal projects and
Yeah.
improving the product.
Absolutely.
working with
Yeah.
engineering, working with the professional services teams,
Mm-hmm.
um, letting them know in terms of, numbers and analytics that where our product needs improvement.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like what's the situation on the field, like
Yeah.
because we are the direct interactors with the customers,
Right.
we kind of have the first hand, we kind of have the first hand experience of the users, what they think about the product.
Right.
So that's what we share with the different teams. Apart from that, every quarter we have kind of different responsibilities,
Okay.
different mini projects, I would say,
Right.
and multiple of them. So
Yeah.
we work on them. We work on the, technical writing as well. So
Mm-hmm.
there are,
Mm.
knowledge articles out there from Snowflake,
Yeah.
some of us written by our team, mostly written by our teams.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's mostly covers the
Yeah.
cloud support engineer thing.
Yeah. That's
And for
it.
the
Yeah.
priority,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry, for
Yeah.
priority, it's those bunch of few customers
Uh-huh.
that are the most technical, that are the most critical ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally work with those few customers.
Mm, interesting. You like putting yourself in challenges, huh?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So one thing that
It's
I
good.
I can take away from my customer support roles in the past as well is that it's a very, it is very exciting because again you work with what the customer sees. So you always work with the very latest and greatest things. Um, and second of all, the thing is it's a very intense job. That's what people
It
do
is.
not talk about it in general. To be honest, they just talk about you work with the cutting edge things and whatnot. But the second part is about that challenging position that you have to be in. You always have to be very customer ready, that you have to provide them with answers even though the situation might be too complex from a technical standpoint. But you need to be very good at explaining things to them and making them understand that the solution is being worked on, or what are the implications from a technical standpoint. So if I were to talk to you from that perspective, Mansoor, what keeps you interested in this high stress, or in this sort of a very challenging position?
Yeah, that's a good question because something should keep you motivated in working such jobs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you burn out or
Exactly.
you don't feel interested
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And if you're cranky,
Yeah.
you're not for this job, especially the
Mm.
customer facing jobs. Any, like it could be sales, it could be
Mm-hmm.
support, it could be customer support, it could be tech support. You're
Right.
not for this jobs
Right.
if you're cranky in your interaction. So
Uh-huh.
so yeah, it's a good question. So for me, what keeps me motivated is the learning part.
Mm-hmm.
And in learning, I would say specifically the soft skills learning part, because
Yeah.
what I have always studied and had always been focusing on was, you know, the hardcore skills, the hard skills, the tech skills. So that's the all the so whatever the mentorship I've gotten so far has been focused on that, hard skills,
Okay.
not on the soft skills, how to talk to the customers, what kind of tone to use, when to use it,
Uh-huh.
when to be direct,
Right.
what not to tolerate, how to communicate
Hmm.
the, not so favorable
Yeah. Yeah.
communications with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
So all that learning, it is what keeps me motivated here.
Right.
And one more thing is that because I'm customer facing and because I deal with lots of customers, um, it's different use cases. It's every customer is using Snowflake in a very different way.
Yeah.
So there are financial firms, there is
Mm-hmm.
entertainment, there is airline industry. So all of them are using
Yeah.
differently, and we get to know how it's being used, and that really keeps me interested. That okay, a single product can be used in very
Yeah.
diverse ways.
Right. So, other than that, Mansoor, were there any myths that got busted for you after you've started working in this position?
Ah, yeah. One that it'd be easy.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
And yeah, I used to think that before joining, this customer facing role was that customer is always right.
Hmm.
They're not. Sorry to bust that
Yeah.
myth. They're not always right.
Yeah.
Especially talking like technically. One thing we always do is go for a sanity check.
Mm-hmm.
That what you're saying should be true.
Mm-hmm.
Does that even make sense?
Yeah.
Should it be true?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you want, but
Yeah.
should it be true? So that and the easy part that it's not always easy. It's not always enjoyable.
Yeah.
So you need the motivation factor there.
Right.
Um, and um that you'll find a lot of time for your training in other domains. So
Mm-hmm.
I used to think that because I had worked back in Pakistan, like for example my initial jobs, I had a lot of time to myself, and that's what I thought I would get here as well.
Yeah.
And because I was moving from Pakistan to Europe here,
Mm-hmm.
I had thought that the work culture is very different.
Yeah.
It's not very high intense, but it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think I am doing both of those two jobs combined here at the same time. So that
Yeah.
kind of was the myth to me, but it's not anymore.
Yeah. That's right. Uh, so other than that, in terms of certifications, I always have gotten very different opinions from different people. To some of them, it's a feel good factor. To some of them, it actually adds value. And to be honest, if I look at it from a practical standpoint, I think they should be more project focused instead of just studying for an exam, appearing for it. If we could somehow prove, or if we could somehow balance it out with a project, I think that adds more value. So, in your opinion, what kind of certifications have really helped you to grow in terms of competency for this role? And, what kind of projects did you get into after getting your certifications?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question, and I think I expect, and that's a normal thing that you get, mixed opinions on this.
Yeah.
It's it's expected to have mixed opinions on this.
Hmm.
One is that, and I agree with both, by the way.
Yeah.
One is that it's a lot of theoretical part.
Hmm.
It's just MCQs,
Yeah.
you could memorize things and you could just appear for it
Yeah.
and pass it, forget it. Um, but that's
Yeah.
also true with every other course. Every
Yeah.
other course you had done in your bachelor's and your master's maybe,
Hmm.
if you don't practice it, you would forget it. And that's exactly how it is with certifications as well.
Hmm.
But in my experience, it really has helped me a lot. It has, made me stand out.
Hmm.
Um, like a lot of us can claim on our resumes that we know a certain skill.
Yeah.
So, what better way is there to prove it?
Hmm.
Um, by showing your certification to the potential employer,
Right.
your future employer.
Hmm.
And just mocking yourself as skill, and then from
Yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 5, you just mark it 4. That doesn't tell a lot to the
Exactly.
employer, to the
Exactly.
people hiring you.
Yeah.
But if there are some standards,
Yeah.
they would be happily following them, and certifications are those standards.
Hmm.
There's a lot of noise, and you want to stand out,
Yeah.
go for the certifications. That's what I
Okay.
would say.
Yeah.
And even if you don't pass, I think during its preparation, you learn a lot. Um,
Yeah.
like topping it up all with the projects
Hmm.
is ideal. That's ideal.
Right.
But
Hmm.
even if you don't,
Yeah.
you get yourself familiarized with a lot of things that might interest you. Like when I was trying to pass developer associate certification for AWS,
Hmm.
I had come across like so many AWS services, and one of them was
Yeah.
Redshift, which
Yeah.
was a cloud data warehouse.
Yeah.
Um, and I was super interested in it, and that's the service I later worked with. And that's the company I later joined, which is
Yeah.
now Snowflake. So I would say like certifications really worked for me, and
Okay.
they taught me
Hmm.
and they made me stand out.
Right. And working in product support side, how do you think you can diversify your technical skill set?
Good question. um, Yeah, once probably when you are in a role, let's say when you
Hmm.
first joined some certain company, or change a role, you start with the training for that role.
Hmm.
That's probably the best time to explore a lot of things
Right.
because once you are in your day-to-day job,
Hmm.
you are not going to find a lot of time for that.
Right.
Um, Personally, I think that some of its responsibility is with the employer as well,
Hmm.
to find you good opportunities. Your managers should find you good opportunities, but before that,
Hmm.
you should show your interest that, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing my day-to-day job, and now I want some
Mhm.
side projects,
Right. Yeah.
which actually span beyond your day-to-day job. That's
Yeah.
how you could, diversify your learnings. That's how you get to work with, let's say, professional services team, or let's say
Hmm.
solution architects, or let's say the sales team.
Yeah.
And there's always a lot to learn from them as well,
Hmm.
because they see a different picture than we do.
Yeah.
And sometimes when we are deep, when we have worked like a year or 2 years in a certain role, we
Yeah.
are too deep in that role that we don't see what
Yeah.
more of technology has come up and what
Right.
we are missing out. So yeah, work with different teams, I would
Yeah.
say.
If we were to talk about work culture, I guess, do you have any cool traditions at work?
Oh yeah, we do.
Mhm.
Yeah, on top of my head, there's one that I really like. That's why it's on top of my head.
Makes sense.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it's that every week when we have, team meeting,
Hmm.
um we try to learn about a new country. So because our team is very diverse from
Hmm.
a lot of countries, and there's like, I don't know, 20 different nationals in our team. So
Hmm.
every week, some one of us has to, like, doesn't have to, but chooses to present
Hmm.
on the country they belong to.
Right.
So if I'm from Pakistan, actually we have Pakistanis have already presented our country. So
Okay.
we
Yeah.
shared all the cool stuff about our country.
Yeah.
So what are the norms? What's the
Hmm.
it could be anything, how we dress up there.
Hmm.
What do we have in the country? We like Pakistan. People usually expect that it's very
Hmm.
warm and it's
Hmm.
always warm and it's very
Hmm.
land, but we share with them that
Yeah.
we do have mountains as well, we do have sea as well.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
So similarly, and our
Yeah.
food like tops every other thing. We have a debate going on with our Indian friends, but I think we can beat them
Yeah.
in food. But but
Nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's how it goes with every other
Yeah.
national as well. So it's really
Yeah,
cool
it's pretty
to
fun,
learn
and
about
I
all this
I think
things.
these kind of little activities should be taken seriously in a way because they promote integrating a lot of different people together, so that whenever they come to work, they bring their best self to work. Because again, I think these are those little moments that help you connect with your coworkers outside of the work, outside of the
Yeah.
reason that you're connecting them with. So then I think it makes you establish more of a human connection with them instead of just knowing them as a role or as a title at work.
Yep. You summarize it perfectly.
Exactly. So Mansoor, if we look at your again journey, I can definitely see that you kind of believe in polywork. I would say you are into several different things. First of all, I would want to know your cause or your motivation of pursuing things other than your work. And then, second of all, I would rather want to know what are some of the productivity hacks that you've applied in your life that helps you keep all of these different tracks streamlined, active, and productive.
Yeah, I think whenever we're talking about, side hustles, it's probably my favorite question. So, and
Yeah.
it is so yeah, and I think you really judged it perfectly that I do like to work in lots of
Mm.
things. So I want to experiment lots of things.
Yeah.
I had experimented, learning languages. I actually worked in Turkish language. I tried to learn German, which was too hard on my throat, but I tried.
Yeah.
And then Chinese as well. And
Yeah.
I think anything you learn does pay off. And it could be, so we've been working in tech domains for a long time,
Hmm.
and these do not really overlap with your technical expertise. So
Hmm.
my learning languages, non-programming languages that don't have anything to do,
Yeah.
my coding languages that I could learn.
Hmm.
And but you could shift from your day-to-day tech job to these, I would say, art things or some other side hustles. The side hustles are mostly the ones, that fuel you,
Hmm.
that kind of fuel your passion. So that's what I do. I personally have always been very much into photography, and
Hmm.
on when I have time on the weekends, I go for street photography.
Yeah.
I used to professionally work in that 1 year before
Yeah.
my first job as photographer as
Hmm.
well. So I wouldn't say they don't pay. They pay good. If you're pursuing
Yeah.
them really like focused, they
Yeah.
pay you and you enjoy them. So
Yeah. Bro, lenses are
y-
expensive.
lenses are expensive, yeah, but they pay for
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
So whatever I've bought so far, I think they have made their money. So
Right.
I've built
Yeah.
assets from them,
Nice.
and even if
Yeah.
but I very much agree that you have to have money to start such kind of passion. So
Right.
but there are things like as for me personally, I've started reading lots of books. I wasn't into books at all
Yeah.
before like 2 years ago,
Right.
but I am now. Only the nonfiction
Yeah.
books, not novels. That's probably not for
Yeah.
me. But nonfiction
Yeah.
books, personal development books, self-help books, they give you some actionable advice in the end.
Hmm.
And I felt that, like myself, like the younger version of me,
Okay.
wouldn't read so lengthy books.
Yeah.
So what I started off was, reading with the, shorter books,
Hmm.
and I still see that a lot of people don't read books, and I
Yeah.
want to, be shouting it out loud that you're missing out on a lot of good stuff. So that's why I started another initiative, which is my weekly, um, newsletter.
Yeah.
It's called Thirinama. So I've
Yeah.
been writing for like a bunch of weeks now. It's been, I think, 3 months now.
Hmm.
Um, so whatever I read
Yeah.
and is worth sharing, I share it.
Yeah.
And there's an additional section in that where I condense a
Yeah.
book that I had read and make some three actionable uh, suggestions, advices, or the takeaways from that book that I
Right.
put in there. And if maybe
Yeah.
someone doesn't have enough time to read,
Yeah.
maybe they could go through those 3 points, and
Yeah.
if they find it interesting enough, they could go for the whole book.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think side hustles, passions should always be followed.
Right. And
Make time for them.
before the recording as well, we were talking about the same point that, if you actually put in your heart and your time into something very passionately, I think it does have an impact on people who consume the content because, I've never been so I didn't consider myself that I would actually get so interested in your weekly newsletters because I just thought of it as a newsletter, right? But then once I
Thank you.
started reading about it, and this week I started refreshing my inbox. I'm like, did I miss an email or did you not send an email? And then I'm like, bro, it was actually good. I
Y-
missed it.
Yeah, I'm guilty of inconsistency for this week. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, no, it's all good. It's all good. And also, did you get featured in the Amsterdam's tourism page on Instagram? Did you?
Oh yes, yes,
Do you want to talk about
yes, I did.
it?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so what happened was
Yeah.
that I think I
Yeah.
started off with wedding photography. I
Yeah.
went to, fashion shoots, and now I am into uh, street photography. So
Right.
that's what I do. I go out on weekends with a couple of friends from
Hmm.
different countries actually, and it's really cool to hang out with them and learn from them actually.
Right.
What kinds of angles they do to take pictures, what kind of spots
Hmm.
they, really have, I would say, discovered in Amsterdam,
Hmm.
where it makes a good picture. So I took some pictures
Yeah.
in Amsterdam, and there is this government's page
Mm-hmm.
for the Amsterdam municipality. They reached out to me. They were like, "Oh, it's a really cool picture. Can we just feature it on our
Yeah.
pages?" I was like, "Okay." Then they shared it on
Yeah.
their LinkedIn. They actually have
Yeah.
it there as their cover photo in lots of places. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh man,
Yeah.
it's working out." And then
Yeah.
actually, and after that, some other people reached out to me. There was Amsterdam Photo Safari group, which actually holds
Mm-hmm.
some, tours of Amsterdam, but the ones that are focused on photography. So they reached out to me. They offered me kind of freelance job that whenever you're free, you can work with us, take some pictures and make some money. I was like, okay.
Nice.
So
Why not? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been good.
Nice. That's interesting. So, Mansoor, moving on, I want to talk to you about failures as well. And maybe it's a sensitive topic to you because I think you lost in crypto. But anyways, if we were to, condense in few sentences, maybe what would be a good coping mechanism or a healthy default for someone to who is faced with failures? How do you recover yourself out of it?
Yeah, first of all, I would say um, categorizing something correctly as a failure, does it actually, categorize as a legit
Yeah.
failure, or was it something that was meant to be there for the
Mm-hmm.
longer good?
Okay.
So, like I used to answer a very common question. I think 5 years from now, the question used to be like, what would you change?
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say, instead of electrical engineering, I would have wanted to go to computer sciences. I had gotten the admission, but
Mm-hmm.
I didn't choose it. So I would say, change this. But then over time, what I'm realizing is that no, I was meant to go to that engineering, not computer sciences.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what has made me whatever I am today.
Right.
The computer sciences would have taken me in some another direction, and
Mhm.
I wouldn't probably be here. I could be at some better place, but I don't know that. That's not a bird in hand. So,
Right.
um, and how to cope with that? I personally think that, you know, um, take something away from whatever that failure is,
Right.
why it happened,
Yeah.
how you could have prevented it.
Yeah.
And one very good way to cope with it is to, tell yourself that it could have been worse. And it's not
Absolutely.
that. It could have been worse. It
Yeah.
could always be worse,
Yeah.
really. Like, think of something,
Mhm.
and you can always think of things
Mhm.
worse than that. So tell yourself that,
Yeah.
convince yourself that it could have been worse. And I think
Mhm.
gratitude goes a long way. If your whole, belief system is about gratitude, it's really hard to go deep into something and counting it as a failure. You do count it as, okay, this happened, but
Mhm.
this could have been worse, and I would have counted that as a
Yeah.
failure. So I am not counting certain thing that has happened to me as a failure.
Right.
So yeah, gratitude, one word.
Right. Excellent. So Mansoor, going or bouncing back to the topic of being in tech, how do you keep yourself up to date with these changing trends in the industry? Because I mean, cloud is just expanding explosively every single year. So how do you keep yourself on top of these things?
Totally, yeah, it is. And honestly, I try to selectively work on certain things,
Hmm.
learn things, because every other day there is a new tech stack and there is,
Yeah.
a new tool that does something that was being done manually
Hmm.
the previous day. So
Yeah.
it's changing and it's changing fast. And I think it's
Hmm.
also obsoleting fast. Some things
Yeah.
that you would learn 5 years ago, some tool or some
Hmm.
tech that you would learn 5 years ago wouldn't
Hmm.
exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I personally, and I'm not saying that it's an advice to everybody as well, but how I personally deal with all these changes or,
Hmm.
always all these developments is that I don't go too deep into everything
Okay.
because then that takes my time away from exploring many other things.
Right.
So I try to, have know-how about
Hmm.
most of the things. I wouldn't say almost everything, but most of
Okay.
the things.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but focus only
Hmm.
only on very selective few things. I wouldn't even say few things,
Yeah.
one that's coming up more
Hmm.
and that interests you. Only focus on that. That's how, at least you could keep up with the industry, with the new tech.
Right. That's very exciting, I would say, to be honest. It gives a lot of perspective. And Mansoor, now that we're heading towards the end of our conversation, I want to ask you about again, just in a very concise way, if now you were to look back at your journey, and again, we don't plan for things in the future. It's good to be happy with the process, but considering that you don't control a lot of things, it relieves you of a lot of stress as well. So now, if you were to look back in retrospective at your journey, how does it make you feel in terms of how have you evolved as a human being?
It's a good and very deep question. I don't think I'd be able to do
Yeah,
justice with its answer, but I think I personally think that when we look back, we actually need to look back, a long time, not a very short time. Like I
of
wouldn't want to
course,
be
yeah,
when I'm answering this question, when even I'm considering this as in retrospective. I don't want to be, I shouldn't be seeing like how I was
hmm,
doing a month ago,
oh,
but actually
of
how I
course, yeah,
was doing
yeah,
5 years ago, 10 years ago,
exactly,
because
exactly,
that's where the delta becomes prominent.
yeah,
That's where you see the growth, and you know, it's not, it doesn't work the way that certain videos do over YouTube's algorithm or Insta's algorithm,
yeah,
and you go viral overnight. But even that stardom doesn't last too long. So whatever is
yeah,
earned, over a long time stays for a long time, I think.
right,
Um, and how I've evolved is again a deep question, but I think I've learned to value things. I've learned to
hmm,
appreciate things. I've learned to um, learn from the failures, and and I wouldn't say that I wouldn't let those failures happen again. I'm probably not in those positions,
hmm,
in those positions. But one thing if I say I've evolved in is it's gratitude. I've tried to
hmm,
be thankful about everything that has happened in good way,
yeah,
and I'm trying to um, be thankful about things that haven't happened in good way, but they
right.
could be worse again.
Yeah, no, that's very beautifully put. And with that, we'll conclude our conversation, Mansoor. It had been an absolute pleasure to be talking to you again, and I'm very happy to be seeing you in person. And I wish you nothing but success. And hope to be in touch. As far as our audience are concerned, if you like the content, please feel free to check us out on other streaming platforms as well. Do like, share, and subscribe to show your support, and pass the content around to your friends and family as well. If you did indeed like the content, feel free to buy me a coffee, and stay tuned until the next episode rolls out. This is your host Osama signing off. Take care.